The night smelled like rain and betrayal. Manhattan's skyline glittered in the distance, reflected in the calm water outside the River Cafe in Brooklyn. Inside, Lily Hart, 6 months pregnant, smiled weakly across the candlelit table. Her husband, Conrad Vale, a 36-year-old real estate millionaire who lived for control and appearances, barely looked up from his iPhone 15 Pro. She whispered, "Conrad, the baby kicked for the first time today." He didn't answer. His phone buzzed again. On the screen flashed the name Sloane Pierce, a PR influencer known for her Fifth Avenue parties and perfectly staged smiles. Lily's eyes dimmed. Her hand instinctively rested on her belly, as if to protect the little heartbeat inside. When she asked softly, "Is she calling again?" his jaw tightened. "You're imagining things," he said coldly, signaling the waiter for the bill. The tension between them was thicker than the rain clouds outside. In the parking lot, wind whipped her hair as she pleaded, "Why are you doing this, Conrad? I've done everything for you." His voice exploded. "Everything. You're nothing without me. Look around. This life, that Cartier ring, that car. It's all me." He stepped closer, too close. The headlights from a passing Mercedes reflected in his eyes, cold, gleaming. Lily stumbled back. Her hand brushed the wet metal railing. Then came the shove. One hard, angry shove. Her head struck the ground. The world flashed white, then black. Conrad froze. For a second, the city's noise disappeared. Then panic set in. He grabbed her phone, trying to erase the last call, but the screen flashed emergency SOS activated. Miles away, in a high-rise security office overlooking Park Avenue, Marcus Hart, Lily's older brother and director of security for a finance firm, saw the alert pop up on his Apple Watch. GPS, Brooklyn Bridge Park, heart rate, flatline. He didn't hesitate. He grabbed his jacket, his badge, his Glock, and stormed out into the storm. On the wet asphalt, Conrad crouched beside his wife's motionless body, whispering, "Don't make this harder." Then, hearing sirens, he slipped her phone into her purse, wiped his prints, and sped away in his black Mercedes S-Class. Marcus arrived just as paramedics loaded Lily onto the stretcher. Her face was pale, her hair matted with blood. "Is she breathing?" he shouted. "Barely," a medic replied. Marcus's training kicked in. Secure scene, preserve evidence, record everything. He noticed something, a faint streak of blood on her wrist, forming half a fingerprint near the clasp of her Tiffany bracelet. He leaned closer and saw the corner of her iPhone cracked but recording. "Its microphone still on," he whispered. "You tried to tell me, didn't you?" As the ambulance doors slammed shut, lightning flashed across the East River. Marcus climbed into his car, soaked but focused, eyes burning with rage and purpose. He muttered to himself, "You hurt my sister, Conrad. You just declared war." And somewhere above the city, the millionaire thought he had silenced her forever. But he had just awakened something far more dangerous. The ambulance raced through the wet Manhattan streets, sirens wailing, slicing the storm. Inside, Lily lay pale and motionless, her pulse weak. Paramedics fought to keep her stable as the city lights streaked past the window. Marcus sat beside her, drenched, gripping her cold hand. The sound of the heart monitor, the faint, steady beeping, was the only proof she was still alive. They arrived at New York Presbyterian Hospital at 1:47 a.m. Doctors rushed in, shouting medical codes, wheeling Lily toward the trauma room. "Head injury, possible concussion, internal bleeding," someone yelled. Marcus tried to follow, but a nurse stopped him. "Sir, you can't go in." He flashed his badge. "Marcus Hart, Director of Security for Atlas Financial. She's my sister." The nurse hesitated, then nodded toward a waiting area. Marcus stood by the glass wall, watching helplessly as a team of doctors surrounded Lily. His fists clenched until his knuckles turned white. He replayed the night in his head. The SOS alert, the cracked iPhone, the blood on her wrist. Nothing about it looked like an accident. Conrad Vale might have money and lawyers, but Marcus had something stronger. Training, access, and a promise to protect his family no matter what. When the ER doors swung open again, Dr. Patel, a composed woman in her 40s, walked out. "She's stable for now," she said quietly. "She has a head trauma, a minor skull fracture, and some bruising around her ribs. But the baby," Marcus's breath caught. "The baby? The heartbeat is strong," Dr. Patel reassured him. "We're keeping her under sedation to prevent stress, but we need to limit who can access her records. Do you understand?" Marcus nodded. "You'll have complete security. Nobody gets through unless I approve." He pulled out his MacBook Pro, connected to the hospital network through his agency's secure system, and set up a do not disclose firewall on Lily's medical file. Conrad wouldn't be able to reach her, not physically, not digitally. Then he made his next move. From his iPhone, Marcus accessed the penthouse security cloud system registered under Conrad's name. His old habits as a cybersecurity specialist kicked in. The last camera upload, timestamped 11:37 p.m., had been flagged private. Marcus downloaded it instantly and copied the metadata. He called ADA Elaine Brooks, a district attorney, an old friend. "Elaine, it's Marcus. I've got a domestic assault case, my sister. The husband's Conrad Vale." There was a pause on the line. "The Millionaire? Marcus, you know that's a high-profile mess." "I don't care. He nearly killed her. I have evidence, but I need a preservation order tonight." Elaine sighed. "I'll wake the night judge. Send me what you have. And Marcus, keep your temper. If you cross a line, it helps him, not her." He ended the call, jaw tight. Across the corridor, the elevator dinged. Two men in gray suits stepped out, Conrad's lawyers. One of them tried to enter the ICU. Marcus intercepted them. "Visiting hours are over," he said coolly. "We represent Mr. Vale," one replied. "We're here to check on his wife's condition." Marcus leaned closer, eyes hard. "She's under police protection now. Try to step past that door, and you'll need your own lawyer." The men retreated. Marcus turned back toward the glass window. Lily lay beneath the glow of medical lights, machines breathing for her. He placed his palm against the glass and whispered, "You're not alone, kiddo. I swear I'll get him. I'll do it the right way." As he said it, his smartwatch buzzed again, a new alert. Cloud upload complete from Conrad's penthouse. File length, 17 seconds. He opened it. The audio played, muffled voices, Lily's trembling words. "Please, stop. Conrad, I'm pregnant." Then a crash. Silence. Marcus froze. His reflection stared back from the laptop screen, soaked and furious. The evidence was real. He looked down the dark corridor toward the exit doors. Rain still hammering outside. His voice was calm but cold. "You made her bleed, Conrad. Now I'll make you answer for it." And as the storm roared above New York City, Marcus Hart swore a silent oath. The kind of promise no man breaks, not even death. Rain dripped from Marcus's coat as he stepped into his office on Park Avenue, the city still asleep beneath a bruised sky. His MacBook Pro flickered to life, the 17-second clip cued on screen. He pressed play again, jaw clenched. The sound of Lily's voice begging for mercy echoed through the sterile quiet of the room. Every word was a wound, every silence a promise of vengeance. But Marcus wasn't just angry. He was methodical. Years in corporate security had taught him that revenge without discipline was suicide. If he wanted justice, he needed to move like a machine, not a brother. He poured himself a black coffee, turned on the desk lamp, and started mapping out a digital trail. The first step: preserve evidence before Conrad's legal team could bury it. Using an encrypted drive, Marcus backed up the video and duplicated the hospital records into his agency's protected cloud. He timestamped everything. Next, he sent a secure email to ADA Elaine Brooks with the subject line, "Preservation Motion, Vale Domestic Assault." She replied within minutes, "Judge Sanchez approved. Law enforcement will execute a data freeze at 9 a.m. That gave him 6 hours to prepare. He opened his secondary workstation, hacked into the smart home management portal, registered under Conrad Vale's name. Years ago, Conrad had boasted about his fully automated penthouse overlooking Central Park. Lights, locks, and cameras all controlled by voice. Marcus had installed the system through his firm. That was Conrad's mistake. Now Marcus revoked his access tokens, locking Conrad out of his own security controls. Then he sent an internal memo to the building's management, citing tenant under police investigation, freeze entry permissions. Within minutes, Conrad's digital keycards were disabled. Meanwhile, across Manhattan, Conrad was waking up in that same penthouse, completely unaware that his world had already started collapsing. He poured whiskey into a crystal glass, ignoring the rain lashing against the windows. The TV murmured news of an unidentified woman hospitalized after a fall in Brooklyn. He switched the channel, irritation flashing across his face. Down in the lobby, a black Mercedes idled. His assistant waited nervously, clutching an iPad with dozens of unread messages. "Sir, the press is asking for a statement. They know it's Lily." Conrad's eyes narrowed. "They know nothing. Handle it. Say it was an accident." Back on Park Avenue, Marcus coordinated with ADA Brooks. "We have grounds for immediate search and data preservation," she said. "We'll need your affidavit and evidence logs by morning." "You'll have them," Marcus replied. His voice was steady, but his heart burned. He stared at Lily's wedding photo framed on his desk, her smile and her eyes full of hope. He whispered, "I'll make this right." At 8:45 a.m., Marcus drove to the courthouse. He met ADA Brooks outside, both holding umbrellas against the biting wind. Inside, they filed for an emergency subpoena to access Conrad's surveillance systems and private communications. The judge reviewed the documents, pressed play on the 17-second clip, and frowned. "This is enough to authorize data retention. Proceed." By 9:30 a.m., NYPD cyber units were at Conrad's penthouse server, securing hard drives. His assistant panicked as the officers walked in with a warrant. Conrad stormed out of his office, shouting, "This is harassment. I want my lawyer." "Call him," an officer said calmly, "but we're not leaving without your systems." Back in his car, Marcus exhaled for the first time in hours. He texted Brooks, "Mission executed. Data safe." Then another message popped up on his screen, an encrypted one from an unknown number. "I have more on Val. He's been laundering through his clubs. Meet me tonight." Marcus frowned. Only one person in Val's inner circle had a name starting with V. Victor Lin, the CFO. He started the engine. The city lights reflected in his windshield, fractured by the rain. He muttered, "Round 2, Conrad. You used power to destroy. I'll use power to expose." And somewhere above the storm, the city's heartbeat thudded in sync with Marcus's vow. Justice wasn't coming. It had already begun. Morning sunlight hit the tall glass windows of Vale Holdings, the headquarters Conrad built as his empire's symbol. He sat behind a mahogany desk, wearing a navy suit and a Rolex that caught the light every time he moved. His assistant, trembling, placed the New York Post on his desk. The front page headline screamed, "Pregnant woman in coma, husband under question." Conrad slammed his fist down, sending his Mont Blanc pen rolling across the desk. "Who leaked this?" he barked. "Sir, the police. They've already seized your surveillance servers," she whispered. "They said it was a preservation order." Conrad stood abruptly, rage flushing his face. "That's Marcus, the security guy. I'll bury him." He grabbed his iPhone and dialed his lawyer, but before the call connected, another headline flashed across his screen. "Justice for Lily," trending at number 3 nationwide. Across the city, Marcus watched the news broadcast from his small security office. His sister's name was everywhere: Twitter, CNN, online tabloids. For the first time, the world was paying attention. Yet Marcus knew public outrage was fragile. It could vanish as fast as it appeared. He needed evidence that couldn't be denied. He picked up his phone and called Victor Lin, CFO of Val Holdings, whose encrypted message had reached him the night before. "Victor, talk to me," Marcus said. There was a long pause, then a shaky voice replied, "I've been helping Conrad hide money for years, but what he did to Lily, I can't live with that. I have files, bank transfers, invoices, offshore ledgers, but if he finds out I talked—" "I'll protect you," Marcus interrupted. "Meet me where?" "Bryant Park Cafe, noon, alone." Marcus hung up, checked his Glock, and slipped it under his jacket. Before leaving, he stopped by Lily's hospital room. Dr. Patel greeted him softly. "She's stable," she said. "No major swelling, but she's still in a coma. You can talk to her. It helps sometimes." Marcus sat beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I'm not stopping, sis. You trusted the wrong man, but you have me now. I'll fight this the way Dad taught us, smart, not loud." Her fingers twitched faintly. Marcus froze, hope rising in his chest. Then nothing, just the rhythmic beeping of machines. He left quietly, whispering, "Stay with me, Lily. I'm building the case." At Bryant Park, Victor was already waiting, nervous behind sunglasses, sipping black coffee. He slid a USB drive across the table. "Everything's there. Wire transfers from Val Holdings to shell companies tied to his nightclubs. Money laundering, tax fraud, offshore accounts. And Sloane Pierce. She's involved too." Marcus frowned. "Sloane, the influencer?" Victor nodded. "She runs PR fronts for his illegal deals. If she talks, it's over for him." Before Marcus could respond, a black SUV slowed near the curb. Victor's eyes widened. "They followed me?" Marcus reacted instantly, pushing Victor toward the back exit. 2 men in suits stepped out, scanning the area. Marcus pretended to bump into one, slipping his badge forward. "FBI task force, step back." The men hesitated just long enough. Marcus and Victor disappeared through the alley. When they reached safety, Marcus said, "You just became a whistleblower. I'll get you protection." That evening, Nina Cole, an investigative journalist and old contact of Marcus, called him. "I've seen your sister's story," she said. "I want in. I have paparazzi photos from last night, the Plaza Hotel, Sloane Pierce leaving with Conrad." Marcus frowned. "Send them to me." Minutes later, the photo hit his inbox. Sloane wearing a Tiffany necklace that shimmered beneath the lights, and hanging from it was something metallic, shaped like a microphone. Marcus zoomed in, his pulse quickening. "She wasn't just his mistress," he murmured. "She was recording him." And somewhere in the glittering skyline of Manhattan, a new layer of betrayal began to surface, one that could either save Lily or destroy everyone left standing. Rain fell again that morning, softer this time, like the city itself was whispering for justice. Marcus stood outside the Manhattan criminal courthouse, clutching a folder thick with evidence, hospital reports, time-stamped screenshots, and the 17-second recording that could end Conrad Vale's career forever. Next to him, ADA Elaine Brooks buttoned her beige trench coat and adjusted her glasses. "You sure you're ready for this, Marcus?" she asked. "I've been ready since the second he touched her," he replied. His voice was steady, but his eyes burned. Inside, the courtroom buzzed with tension. The air smelled of old wood and perfume. Conrad's lawyers had shown up in perfectly tailored suits, flanked by PR representatives and 2 bodyguards. When Conrad entered, he wore a dark blue Armani suit, hair slicked back, face expressionless. He looked every bit the grieving husband until his eyes met Marcus's. For a moment, the mask slipped. Pure hatred flickered there. The judge, a sharp-eyed woman named Justice Mendez, called the room to order. ADA Brooks stepped forward first. "Your Honor, the victim, Mrs. Lily Hart Vale, remains in a medically induced coma due to repeated blunt force trauma. We have a digital recording captured moments before the assault and a sworn statement from her brother, Marcus Hart." Conrad's attorney, a silver-haired man with a silk tie, stood up smoothly. "Your Honor, the defense maintains that Mrs. Vale's injuries were the result of a tragic fall. Mr. Vale is devastated and has cooperated fully with authorities. Any claim of abuse is unsubstantiated." Marcus clenched his jaw, his hand gripping the edge of the table. Elaine glanced at him, then pressed play on the iPad. The courtroom went silent. Lily's trembling voice filled the air. "Please stop, Conrad. I'm pregnant." Then came the sound of impact. The room collectively inhaled. Even the judge's expression hardened. When the clip ended, Elaine said simply, "We request a full restraining order, hospital protection detail, and digital access freeze for Mr. Vale until further notice." Justice Mendez nodded. "Granted. Mr. Vale, you are prohibited from contacting or approaching your wife, her family, or the hospital. Violations will result in immediate detention." Conrad's lawyer started to object, but the gavel struck. Decision made. As everyone stood to leave, Conrad leaned toward Marcus and whispered, "You think you've won something? You have no idea who you're fighting." Marcus stared at him coldly. "Oh, I do. A man who's about to lose everything?" Outside, flashes from reporters' cameras lit the courthouse steps. Questions flew. "Is it true she's in a coma? Did you hit your wife, Mr. Vale? How do you respond to the recording?" Conrad forced a grim smile. "It was an accident. I love my wife. People will see that soon." He turned away, but his assistant ran up, pale as paper. "Sir, the office? Something's wrong." "The vault, one of the drives is missing." Conrad froze mid-step. "What do you mean, missing?" "It was there last night. Now it's gone." Marcus, standing a few feet away, caught the words. He didn't react, but his mind clicked into motion. Someone inside Vale Holdings had just made a move. Later that evening, back at his apartment, Marcus reviewed his notes by the glow of a desk lamp. Outside, the skyline of Manhattan gleamed through the rain. His phone buzzed with a text from Nina Cole. "Exclusive, internal panic at Vale Holdings. CFO rumored to cooperate with investigators." Marcus typed back, "Good. Pressure breaks liars faster than truth ever could." He leaned back, exhausted but alert. He could almost feel Lily's hand again, small and warm, the way she used to cling to him as a child when storms frightened her. He whispered, "Hang on, sis. We're just getting started." And somewhere in the darkness of the city, Conrad Vale realized his perfect world had begun to fracture, and the man he'd underestimated most was now his greatest threat. The following morning, Manhattan looked deceptively calm under the golden light. But inside Vail Holdings, chaos simmered beneath the surface. Staff whispered in hallways, phones buzzed with blocked calls, and security guards had new faces. Conrad's attempt to plug leaks he couldn't even see. Victor Lin, the CFO, sat in his office staring at a spreadsheet that could ruin them all. He'd spent years cleaning up Conrad's dirty money, funneled through shell companies, luxury club receipts, and offshore accounts hidden in the Cayman Islands. But now, every transaction looked like a loaded gun pointing straight at him. His phone buzzed. Private number. "Victor Lin?" a voice asked. He froze. "Who is this?" "Marcus Hart. You and I have the same enemy." Victor exhaled shakily. "You have no idea how dangerous he is." Marcus replied calmly. "I know exactly who he is. You sent me a message once, remember? This is your last chance to make things right." There was a pause. Then Victor whispered, "Meet me tonight. But not at the office. Somewhere public." Marcus smiled grimly. "I know just the place." That evening, the River Cafe glowed again under the Brooklyn Bridge, the same place where Lily's nightmare began. Marcus chose it deliberately. If justice was going to start somewhere, it should start where the pain was born. Victor arrived wearing a plain gray coat, eyes darting nervously. "I can't be seen with you," he muttered. "Relax," Marcus said, sliding a folder across the table. "This is your immunity deal. ADA Brooks already signed off on it. In exchange, you testify about Vail Holdings' financial crimes." Victor's hands trembled as he opened it. "You don't understand, Marcus. Conrad's not scared of courtrooms. He's scared of exposure. If the wrong document leaks, people in Washington start calling." Marcus leaned forward. "Then we make that call for him." Victor hesitated, then pulled out a small hard drive. "This has encrypted transfers between Conrad's personal accounts and Sloan Pierce's company, Pierce PR. Millions, unreported. And that's not even the worst of it. There's a recording." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "Recording?" Victor nodded. "Sloan recorded him during their meetings. She thought it was for leverage, but she doesn't realize what's on those tapes. He talks about Lily, about what he did that night." Marcus froze. "Where are they?" Victor whispered. "She keeps backups in a safe at the Plaza Hotel, Suite 1812, registered under her manager's name." Marcus's mind began to race. "You're telling me the mistress has the smoking gun?" Victor gave a hollow laugh. In Conrad's world, everyone's insurance is another person's coffin. Before Marcus could respond, the cafe lights flickered. Across the room, a man in a black coat stood up and spoke into a small earpiece. Marcus's instincts screamed trap. "Get down," he hissed. The window shattered. A bullet punched through Victor's coffee cup, sending porcelain shards across the table. People screamed. Marcus ducked, drawing his Glock. The shooter bolted through the back door into the alley. Marcus chased him into the rain, firing once, but the figure vanished into the crowd. When he returned, Victor was on the floor, clutching his shoulder, bleeding but alive. "Stay with me," Marcus shouted, pressing napkins against the wound. Sirens wailed in the distance. Victor groaned. "He knows we talked." Marcus tightened his grip. "Then we move faster. You just became the most important man in New York." Hours later, as paramedics loaded Victor into the ambulance, Marcus stood alone in the rain outside the cafe. His phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "You're next, Hart. Walk away." Marcus stared at the skyline of Manhattan, water dripping from his hair, eyes burning with quiet fury. He whispered, "You should have finished the job that night, Conrad." And somewhere high above Park Avenue, Conrad Vail poured himself another drink, unaware that his own empire had just begun to turn against him. The beeping of the monitors was the only sound in Lily Hart's hospital room. Pale light from the morning sun spilled through the half-closed blinds, painting stripes across her motionless face. Tubes and wires surrounded her, the air filled with the sterile hum of machines keeping her alive. For 6 days she hadn't opened her eyes. Dr. Patel stood beside the bed, flipping through her chart. "Brain swelling's gone down," she said quietly to Marcus. "She's stable now. If there's any time she might wake up, it's soon." Marcus leaned over the bed. His eyes looked hollow from sleepless nights, his shirt still stained from the shootout at the River Cafe. "Hey, Lil," he whispered. "It's me. The city's talking about you now. You're not a secret anymore. Conrad can't touch you again." He placed his hand over hers. Her skin was cold, but his thumb felt a faint twitch. His heart jumped. Come on, kiddo. You fought for everyone your whole life. Fight for yourself now. Dr. Patel smiled softly. Keep talking to her. The brain can still hear. Then she left them alone. Marcus took a deep breath, pulled out his iPhone and began playing the soft jazz playlist Lily loved, Bill Evans, her favorite. The gentle piano drifted through the room, wrapping her in something familiar. Remember this? He said. You used to dance to it in the kitchen when you thought no one was watching. Outside, 2 police officers stood guard. Since the restraining order, Conrad's lawyers had tried twice to gain access to Lily's medical files. Both times, Marcus's system blocked them. Still, he knew it was only a matter of time before they tried something else. At 9:12 a.m., the first sign came. Lily's fingers twitched again. Then her lips parted slightly. Marcus froze, barely breathing. Her eyelids fluttered once, twice, then opened. Lily? He whispered. Her voice was faint, barely audible. Marcus? He almost laughed and cried at the same time. Yeah, it's me. You're safe. Her eyes filled with confusion. Where's Conrad? He's not here. He can't hurt you anymore. Tears rolled down her temples. The baby? Still strong, he said quickly. Dr. Patel says your boy's a fighter, just like his mom. Lily tried to smile, but pain creased her forehead. I recorded him, she murmured weakly. Before I fell, in my bag, the second phone. Marcus's chest tightened. I found it. You saved yourself, Lil. You gave me everything I needed. Her breathing steadied, though her eyes were full of fear. He won't stop, Marcus. You don't know him like I do. He'll come after you. Marcus squeezed her hand. Let him. I've been waiting. Dr. Patel rushed back in as the monitor spiked. Easy, Mrs. Hart. Slow breaths. Lily nodded slightly, whispering, Promise me, don't let him near the baby. I promise, Marcus said, voice cracking. When she drifted back to sleep, Marcus stepped into the hallway. A.A. Brooks was waiting. She woke up, he nodded, and she remembers everything. That's enough for an arrest warrant, Brooks said. But we'll need her official statement once she's strong enough. Marcus exhaled slowly. Then we move tonight, before Conrad runs again. Brooks frowned. Careful, Marcus. He's cornered. Cornered men get violent. I'm counting on it, Marcus said coldly. As he walked toward the elevator, a nurse hurried past with a clipboard. Marcus's instincts prickled. Something off about the man's badge. He turned, watching the nurse disappear into Lily's wing. He followed quietly. Down the hall, the man entered Lily's room, adjusting a syringe. Marcus's hand went straight to his holster. Head! The man froze, then bolted toward the emergency exit. Marcus sprinted after him, tackling him before he reached the stairwell. The badge clattered to the floor. It was fake. Who sent you? Marcus shouted. The man smirked through bleeding lips. You already know. And as security dragged the intruder away, Marcus realized something chilling. Conrad Vale wasn't waiting anymore. He had just declared his counterattack. By the next evening, New York glimmered beneath a storm of camera flashes and luxury car headlights. The Plaza Hotel was alive with chatter, the kind of crowd that wore secrets under silk. Marcus stood at the entrance, dressed in a black suit and earpiece, blending in with the hotel's private security detail. He wasn't there to protect anyone. He was there to hunt. A.A. Brooks's plan was simple but dangerous. Lure Sloane Pierce into a meeting she couldn't resist. Brooks had arranged it under the pretense of a damage control session between Sloane and Vale Holdings' PR team. In reality, Marcus was waiting behind mirrored glass with a recorder running. Upstairs, in the hotel's Palm Court lounge, Sloane arrived fashionably late, wearing a cream dress and oversized sunglasses. Every eye turned toward her. She moved like she owned the room. A Cartier bracelet glittered on her wrist, and a Tiffany necklace rested above her heart, the same one Marcus had seen in that photo. She took a seat across from Brooks, who smiled like a shark behind polite lips. Miss Pierce, she said smoothly, thank you for meeting on such short notice. We're just trying to clarify the narrative before things spiral. Sloane crossed her legs, revealing designer heels that clicked like punctuation marks. I'm happy to help, she said, her tone light but rehearsed. Conrad's a complicated man, but he doesn't deserve to be crucified by tabloids. Brooks nodded. Of course. Still, some financial irregularities came up. Maybe you can explain these? She slid a thin envelope across the table. Inside, copies of Victor Lynn's documents showing money wired to Sloane's company. Sloane's smile faltered. Where did you get these? From the same man Conrad tried to have killed, Brooks said softly. A flicker of fear crossed Sloane's face, but she recovered quickly. If this is intimidation— No, Brooks interrupted. It's your chance to survive him. In the observation suite, Marcus watched every twitch of Sloane's fingers. He knew the signs. Someone deciding whether to lie or run. Sloane exhaled shakily. I didn't know he'd hurt her. I thought it was just business. He said she was jealous, unstable. Brooks leaned closer. Did he ever mention that night? Sloane hesitated, then whispered. He called me right after it happened. He was shaking, said he lost control. I recorded that call. Marcus's pulse quickened. That's it, he muttered under his breath. Brooks asked gently, Where's the recording? In my suite, Sloane said quietly. Room 1812, but I don't keep the master there, just a copy. Good, Brooks said. Then we can retrieve it together. Just then, Sloane's phone buzzed. She glanced down, and all the color drained from her face. The screen read, Leave now. Camera's watching. Marcus cursed under his breath. He knows. Sloane stood abruptly, knocking over her glass. This meeting's over. She grabbed her purse and rushed out, nearly tripping on the marble floor. Marcus and 2 undercover agents followed her through the gilded corridors, up the grand staircase. By the time they reached her suite, the door was ajar. Inside, the air smelled of perfume and fear. Drawers were open, clothes scattered. Sloane? Marcus called. No answer. Then, a faint sound, a phone vibrating under a pillow. Marcus picked it up. On the screen was a video still frame. Conrad Vale sitting in his penthouse, smirking. A timestamp marked live feed, 8:47 p.m. Brooks appeared in the doorway, breathless. He's taunting us. Marcus nodded grimly. No, he's watching the trap. A sudden crash erupted from the adjoining room. Marcus kicked the door open and froze. The window was shattered, curtains whipping in the wind. A single high heel lay on the floor. He rushed to the window. Far below, flashing lights illuminated the plaza's fountain, and a crowd gathered. Brooks whispered, Please tell me she didn't jump. Marcus stared at the empty street below, his jaw tightening. No, Conrad doesn't let witnesses jump. He makes them disappear. And as the sirens wailed through Fifth Avenue, Marcus realized the game had shifted again. Conrad Vale was no longer running. He was hunting too. The morning after Sloane's disappearance, New York woke to headlines screaming, Influencer missing after meeting with Day's office. Conrad Vale's smiling face appeared beside hers on every screen in Times Square. He looked unbothered, even smug, as if the chaos itself was part of his brand. Marcus didn't sleep. He spent the night in his office, staring at a map of Manhattan with red pins marking every Vale property. His gut told him Sloane wasn't dead, not yet. Conrad liked control too much to kill without purpose. He liked leverage. At dawn, ADA Brooks entered, holding a takeout coffee. You look like hell, she said softly. I've seen hell, Marcus replied. It wears an Armani suit. She placed a folder on his desk. Forensics pulled something from Sloane's suite, a keycard for the Ritz-Carlton registered under her alias, Catherine Moss. Marcus straightened. You think that's where she hid the real recordings? Brooks nodded. Or where Conrad's people stashed her. 2 hours later, they stood in the marble lobby of the Ritz-Carlton, blending in among tourists and business elites. Marcus wore a tailored black coat, trying to look like a Wall Street executive. The clerk checked the name on the keycard, then politely said, Suite 2714. But the guest hasn't been seen for 3 days. Marcus's instincts tingled. Let's check it. They rode the elevator up in silence. The higher they went, the heavier the air felt. When the doors opened, Marcus drew his Glock quietly. The hallway was pristine, too quiet, too perfect. Room 2714 looked untouched. Marcus swiped the card and the lock clicked open. Inside was a world of luxury. Champagne glasses half full, Dior perfume bottles on the vanity, a Tiffany box left open with no jewelry inside. But what caught Marcus's eye was the large floor-to-ceiling painting of the Manhattan skyline. The frame was slightly tilted. He walked over, lifted it, and froze. Behind it was a small steel door, a vault. Brooks exhaled. She really did have something. Marcus found a keypad beneath the panel. 6 digits, he muttered. What would she use? Brooks looked around. On the nightstand lay a half-burned candle and a torn envelope addressed to SP from CV. The date on the envelope, 06/12/19. Marcus entered the numbers. The lock beeped twice, then clicked open. Inside the vault was a hard drive, a silver Mont Blanc pen, and a flash of blue velvet, a small jewelry box. Marcus opened it. Inside was a micro SD card. Brooks smiled faintly. "You think that's the recording?" Marcus nodded. "Feels like it." He plugged the card into his laptop. The screen came alive. Sloane's video diary. She sat in front of a mirror, tears streaking her mascara. "If you're watching this," she said shakily, "it means Conrad found out. He said he'd destroy everything. But I backed up proof, him talking about Lily, about the night she fell. It's all here. Don't trust anyone from Vale Holdings, not even the board." The video cut to black. Marcus whispered. She knew he'd come for her. Brooks sighed. "We need to get this to evidence right now." But before Marcus could eject the drive, the hotel's fire alarm erupted. Red lights flashed, sirens howled. Marcus's stomach dropped. "He's here," he muttered. They bolted for the stairwell as smoke seeped through the vents. Artificial, triggered remotely. Two men in black suits appeared at the corridor's end, guns drawn. Marcus fired first, hitting one in the leg. Brooks shoved the evidence drive into her coat pocket. They raced down 20 flights, bursting into the service alley just as fire trucks screeched in. Marcus grabbed Brooks's arm. "Get that drive to the DA's office. Go. What about you? I'll make sure they don't follow." As she disappeared into the crowd, Marcus ducked behind a delivery truck, reloading. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Still playing detective? Check the River Cafe. The next message will tell you where she really is." Marcus stared at the screen, rain dripping from his hair. His pulse quickened, and as he stepped back into the storm, he knew one thing. Sloane was alive, and the vault was only the beginning of Conrad Vale's downfall. Rain hammered against Marcus's windshield as he sped toward the Brooklyn Bridge. The message on his phone glowed like a curse. "Check the River Cafe. Come alone." It was the same place where Lily almost died, the same spot where Conrad's rage had shattered everything. Marcus parked 2 blocks away, stepping out into the storm. The wind smelled of the East River and vengeance. His Glock rested inside his jacket, and the microcom in his ear connected him to ADA Brooks. "Marcus," her voice crackled, "please tell me you're not doing this without backup." "I'm just talking to whoever sent that text," he said flatly. "If it's Conrad, I want eyes on him. You're walking into a setup. Then I'll spring it before he does." He ended the call. The restaurant was closed, chairs stacked, windows dark, but candlelight flickered near the back table, the same one Lily and Conrad had sat at that night. Marcus moved closer, gun drawn. A voice emerged from the shadows. "You don't listen very well." Conrad Vale stepped into the light, wearing a black trench coat, his Rolex gleaming under the candle flame. His smirk was almost casual. "Still playing the hero, Marcus? You should have stayed in your lane." Marcus didn't lower the gun. "Where's Sloane?" Conrad chuckled. "You really think she matters? That little actress got greedy. She thought recording me made her untouchable. Now she's part of the river." Marcus's stomach twisted. "You killed her?" Conrad leaned forward, his voice silky and venomous. "I cleaned up my mess. Something you should have done years ago when your sister married me. You could have saved her the trouble." Marcus's finger tightened on the trigger, but he didn't shoot. "You're confessing to attempted murder, money laundering, and witness tampering. That's bold for a man out on bail." Conrad smirked wider. "Bail's temporary. Power's permanent. And you're nothing but a glorified rent-a-cop playing detective." Marcus took a step closer. "You really think you're untouchable? I have your recordings, your financials, and your partners are already talking." Conrad's smile faltered for the first time. "You're bluffing." Marcus tossed a USB drive onto the table. "Recognize that? It's from the Ritz-Carlton vault. Sloane's video diary. Every word she said about you is backed by timestamps, bank data, and location pings. You're done." Conrad's face hardened. "You think the system will save you? I own half the people in that courthouse." "Not this time." Lightning split the sky. Marcus could see movement behind the glass, 2 figures closing in, silhouettes holding guns. "Your backup?" Conrad asked mockingly. "Yours," Marcus said, raising his weapon. The window shattered before either could move. Bullets tore through the air. Marcus dove behind a table, firing back, the air filled with smoke and splinters. Conrad ducked behind a pillar, shouting orders into a headset. When the gunfire stopped, Conrad peeked out and froze. Marcus stood above him, gun trained on his chest. Game's over, Marcus said. Conrad laughed breathlessly. You don't have the guts. Marcus's eyes burned. You're right, but I know someone who does. From the entrance came the echo of footsteps. ADA Brooks appeared, flanked by NYPD officers, her badge raised. Conrad Vale, you're under arrest for attempted murder, obstruction of justice, and racketeering. Conrad sneered. You can't. She cut him off. We can. The DA signed your warrant an hour ago. You should have turned off your cameras before bragging, genius. We recorded everything you just said. Officers pinned him down. His Rolex clattered against the floor. As they cuffed him, Conrad turned toward Marcus. You think this ends with me? You have no idea what I've built. Marcus leaned close, whispering, then watch it burn from your cell. As they dragged Conrad away, thunder roared over the river. Marcus stood in the empty restaurant, breathing hard, rain leaking through the broken glass. He pulled out his phone. Lily's name lit the screen. A video call request from the hospital. He answered, trembling. Her voice was weak but clear. Marcus, is it over? He smiled faintly. Yeah, Lil, it's over. But deep down, as he stared into the dark waters outside, Marcus knew this was only the beginning of uncovering just how far Conrad Vale's empire reached. The storm had passed by morning, leaving Manhattan drenched and heavy with silence. Conrad Vale was behind bars at last, and the city's appetite for scandal turned elsewhere. For the first time in weeks, Marcus allowed himself to breathe. He drove to New York Presbyterian just as dawn light spilled over the East River, coffee in one hand, hope in the other. When he entered Lily's room, the machines hummed softly, their steady rhythm almost soothing. Lily was awake, sitting up slightly, her skin pale but glowing in the early light. The baby bump beneath her hospital gown rose and fell gently with her breaths. Hey, soldier, she whispered, smiling faintly. Marcus grinned, setting the coffee on her table. You look better than I expected. She chuckled weakly. That's a low bar. They both laughed, a fragile sound but real. Marcus sat by her side, squeezing her hand. He's in custody. Brooks has enough to bury him legally and financially. Lily's eyes filled with relief and exhaustion. So it's really over? Almost. There's still a lot to clean up. Shell companies, witnesses, people who might try to protect him. She nodded slowly. Just promise me one thing. No more revenge, only justice. Marcus smiled faintly. Justice? Scout's honor. A knock on the door interrupted them. A man in a white coat entered, holding a clipboard. Mrs. Vale, I'm Dr. Hill. I'll be your new attending physician now that Dr. Patel's been reassigned. Lily frowned. Reassigned? She didn't tell me that. The man smiled politely. It was a sudden change, nothing to worry about. Something about his voice made Marcus's gut tighten. Which department are you from? Maternal trauma, the doctor replied smoothly. Transferred from Mount Sinai. Marcus's instincts screamed liar. He'd been a security chief too long to ignore that tone, that controlled calm. Mind if I see your hospital ID, Doc? The man hesitated, then reached into his coat. Marcus's hand was faster. He grabbed the badge, flipping it over. It was real. But the name didn't match the face. Funny, Marcus said coldly. I actually know the real Dr. Hill. The man lunged forward. Marcus reacted instantly, slamming him into the wall. The clipboard clattered to the floor. Inside were 2 syringes, one labeled midazolam. Lily screamed. Nurses rushed in. The man tried to twist free, but Marcus pinned him until security burst through the door. Get him out of here, Marcus barked. The imposter was dragged away, spitting curses. Lily trembled, her voice breaking. What was that? What did he? Marcus took her hand again, forcing calm into his voice. It's okay. He won't hurt you. He was here to finish what Conrad started. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I thought it was over. He shook his head. People like Conrad don't stop when they're arrested. They stop when everything they built collapses. That afternoon, ADA Brooks arrived at the hospital, eyes wide with concern. We've traced the fake doctor, she said. He's connected to one of Conrad's offshore shell accounts. That means someone on the outside is still taking orders from him. Marcus rubbed his temples. So even in jail, he's pulling strings. Brooks nodded. For now, but we're freezing his remaining assets tonight. Once we do, his reach dies. Lily whispered. What if someone else helps him? What if? Marcus stopped her gently. Then they'll face the same end. Brooks turned to leave. One more thing. Conrad's mother requested a visit, says she has something important to give you. Marcus frowned. His mother? She claims it's proof her son's been lying for decades. That night, as rain began to fall again, Marcus stood by the window of Lily's room, watching the city lights blur. He thought of Conrad behind bars, the imposter in custody, and a mother with secrets waiting to be told. He whispered, "You're running out of soldiers, Vale." And somewhere in Rikers Island, Conrad Vale smiled at the same storm, whispering to himself, "Not yet." The next afternoon, the air outside New York Presbyterian felt heavy with tension. Marcus waited in the visitors' lobby, pacing like a restless wolf. ADA Brooks had arranged for Conrad's mother, Eleanor Vale, to meet them there. He wasn't sure what to expect from the woman who'd raised a monster, but part of him hoped she carried answers that could finally close this nightmare. When Eleanor arrived, she didn't look like the mother of a millionaire. She looked tired, too thin, dressed simply in a gray coat, her once blonde hair streaked with silver. Her trembling hands clutched an old leather notebook, the edges worn and faded. "Mr. Hart?" she asked softly. Marcus nodded. "Mrs. Vale, please have a seat." She sat across from him, her eyes distant. "I saw the news. I can't sleep knowing what my son's done." Marcus studied her face. There was no arrogance, no defense, just regret. "Then why are you here?" She took a deep breath. "Because it's my fault, too." He frowned. "Your fault?" Eleanor opened the notebook. Inside were pages filled with names, dates, and newspaper clippings. Decades of notes. "Conrad wasn't born cruel," she said quietly. "He learned it. His father taught him that power is survival. When he was 12, he saw his father strike me across the face. The next day, he smiled when he lied about it. That's when I knew he'd chosen the wrong lesson." Marcus stayed silent, letting her speak. "When his father died," she continued, "Conrad took everything, our money, our company, even our name. But he also inherited something darker. A network of offshore accounts his father used for bribery. He's been expanding it for years, and he told me once, if anyone ever tries to destroy me, I'll take them all down with me." Marcus leaned forward. "Do you have proof?" She slid the notebook toward him. "This is everything I have. Bank codes, shell company names, and one more thing." She reached into her purse and handed him a small USB drive. "It's a recording. He called me after what happened to Lily. He was crying, begging me to help him disappear." Marcus's pulse quickened. "He admitted it?" Eleanor nodded. "Half admitted. He said, I didn't mean to push her that hard. Then he stopped. Said if I ever gave that to police, I'd never see him again." Her voice broke. "I'm a mother. I thought I could fix him." Marcus looked at her with surprising gentleness. "You just did." Before he could say more, ADA Brooks entered, her face grave. "Marcus, we have a problem. Conrad's lawyers are filing for emergency bail review. They're claiming procedural misconduct during his arrest." Marcus slammed his hand on the table. "He confessed on camera," Brooks nodded, "and his team says the footage was illegally recorded. If the judge agrees, the entire confession could be thrown out." Eleanor gasped. "You mean he could walk free?" "Temporarily," Brooks said, "but we'll fight it." Marcus clenched his fists. "I'm not letting him walk anywhere. That drive she gave me, it stays between us until we're sure it can't be tampered with." Brooks hesitated. "Be careful, Marcus. If we use evidence from his mother, his lawyers will spin it as emotional coercion. We'll need a new angle." Eleanor looked down, guilt washing over her. "I waited too long to stop him. Don't make the same mistake." Marcus pocketed the USB drive. "I won't." Later that night, Marcus returned to his apartment overlooking Park Avenue. The city lights reflected in the window like broken stars. He poured whiskey into a glass but didn't drink. Instead, he played the audio from Eleanor's drive. Conrad's voice filled the room. Low, trembling, angry. "I didn't mean to push her that hard. She kept saying the baby kicked. I told her to shut up. Then she fell. It wasn't my fault. You hear me, Mom? It wasn't my fault." Marcus sat in the dark, jaw tightening. He whispered, "No, Conrad, it was." And as he closed his laptop, he didn't realize that far away in Rikers Island, Conrad Vale had already bribed his way into the infirmary, and the first step of his escape plan was already in motion. By the next morning, Manhattan was on fire, not from flames, but from headlines. Screens across Times Square flashed breaking news. Vale team claims false arrest. Millionaire calls it a setup. Conrad's lawyers had launched a full-scale media counterattack, spinning the story like a work of art. They painted him as a devoted husband wrongfully accused, a victim of vindictive in-laws and political ambition. Marcus watched the chaos unfold from the hospital cafeteria, his coffee gone cold. Every channel replayed Conrad's recorded statement from jail, edited to make him sound remorseful, even innocent. He wasn't just defending himself, he was rewriting the narrative. ADA Brooks stormed in, slamming a stack of papers onto the table. "They're filing a civil countersuit against you, Marcus. Harassment and unlawful evidence collection. It's a circus." Marcus rubbed his temples. That's his game, muddy the truth until no one knows what's real. Brooks sighed. "We're running out of time. The judge will review his bail request by Friday. If he walks out, he'll disappear." Marcus's phone buzzed before he could respond. A notification popped up. "Live now. Exclusive interview with Conrad Vale." He tapped it. On screen, Conrad sat in a sleek studio, perfectly groomed, wearing a navy suit and that same damn Rolex. The interviewer leaned forward. "Mr. Vale, the world has seen disturbing footage and heard serious accusations. Are you saying all of it is fabricated?" Conrad gave a somber smile. "My wife suffered a terrible accident. I've made mistakes in my marriage, but I would never harm her. Certain people with power, are using this tragedy to destroy me." Marcus felt his stomach twist as the interviewer nodded sympathetically. "And what about your brother-in-law, Marcus Hart?" Conrad's voice softened like poison honey. "Marcus is grieving, I understand that, but his obsession has blinded him. He's turned justice into vengeance." Brooks turned off the phone. "He's framing you, Marcus. Public sympathy is shifting." Marcus stood abruptly. "Then we take the story back." She frowned. "How?" He smiled coldly. "The same way he built it." That afternoon, Marcus met journalist Nina Cole at her Midtown studio. Cameras, lights, and microphones surrounded them, but the air between them buzzed with focus. Nina looked up from her notes. "You sure about this? Going public means every secret you've held becomes ammunition." "I don't care," Marcus said. "The truth needs a face. Make it mine." The cameras rolled. Nina started gently. "Mr. Hart, the public has seen two sides of this case. Who should they believe?" Marcus looked straight into the lens. "Believe the woman who can't defend herself. My sister Lily was 6 months pregnant when her husband pushed her into a wall. I was there when they carried her out, bleeding, unconscious. I've seen the footage. I've heard him admit it." Nina asked, "Why go public now?" "Because Conrad Vale's money is louder than justice, but I'm louder than his lies." He handed her the USB Eleanor had given him. "This is a recording of Conrad confessing to his mother. It's not doctored, it's real. Play it." The studio went silent as Conrad's voice filled the speakers. "I didn't mean to push her that hard. It wasn't my fault." When the audio ended, Nina stared at him. "You just changed everything." Marcus nodded. "That's the point." Within an hour, the clip went viral. Justice for Lily surged back to the top of social media. Talk shows debated it. News anchors replayed every second of the confession. Conrad's lawyers scrambled to discredit it, but the damage was done. That night, Marcus sat in Lily's hospital room, the TV casting faint light across her face. She was awake, holding his hand as the news replayed. "You did it," she whispered. He smiled softly. "Not yet. This was just round 1. She frowned. "Then what's round 2? Marcus's phone buzzed again, a secure message from Brooks. "Emergency. Conrad transferred to infirmary. Possible escape attempt." He stood, blood draining from his face, and as he looked out over the city lights, Marcus realized the war wasn't over. It was just going live again. Rikers Island never slept, but that night the wind itself seemed to hold its breath. A violent thunderstorm rolled over New York, lightning flashing against the razor wire fences. Inside the prison infirmary, Conrad Vale lay on a narrow cot, his arm in a sling, pretending to be sedated. The heart monitor beside him beeped steadily, masking the irregular rhythm of his plan. At precisely 2:14 a.m., the lights flickered, once, twice, then died. Total darkness. A guard cursed under his breath and reached for a flashlight. Before he could turn it on, a shadow moved behind him, a whisper, a sharp metallic click, and then silence. The guard slumped to the floor. Conrad sat up slowly, removing the IV line from his arm. A man dressed as a medic stepped from the corner, face hidden behind a surgical mask. "Mr. Vale, we have 4 minutes," he said in a low, clipped accent. "The van is waiting at Dock 3. Conrad smirked. "I trust the transfer payment went through?" The man nodded. "Every cent. Cayman accounts, but you need to disappear for good after this." Conrad slipped on a black jacket, the same brand he'd worn in every business deal that built his empire. Disappear? No, I'm gonna reclaim what's mine. He followed the medic through the narrow corridors, their footsteps drowned by the storm. Security cameras were looping pre-recorded footage, an inside job orchestrated by money and fear. Within minutes, they reached a maintenance exit. A black van idled outside, engine humming. Conrad climbed in. The driver turned briefly, revealing a familiar face, his assistant, pale and terrified. "Sir, we shouldn't be doing this." The DA. "Drive," Conrad ordered coldly. As the van sped toward the bridge, lightning illuminated the city skyline in the distance. Conrad leaned back, smirking. Did they really think they could cage me? Back in Manhattan, Marcus Hart was already awake. He hadn't slept since Brooks's message. Possible escape attempt. The words replayed in his mind like an alarm. He grabbed his badge, holstered his Glock, and sped down the FDR Drive in his black SUV. At 2:47 a.m., the Rikers warden called Brooks. "He's gone," the man stammered. "Vale's gone." Brooks's voice was calm but cold. "Lock down every bridge and tunnel. Issue a bolo for all vehicles within 10 miles. Marcus listened through the comm line. "He's not running," he said. "He's coming for her." Brooks froze. "Lily?" Marcus slammed his fist against the steering wheel. "He won't stop until he finishes what he started." Meanwhile, the van raced through Queens, cutting toward the Williamsburg Bridge. Conrad's assistant kept glancing at the rearview mirror. "Sir, please, we should fly south. Lay low until—" Conrad laughed softly. "Lay low? No, I'm going home." "Home? Where it all began, the penthouse." The assistant's voice cracked. "But it's under federal seizure." Conrad's tone turned deadly. "Then they'll learn what happens when they touch my life." As the van approached the bridge, flashing police lights appeared behind them. The assistant panicked. "They found us!" Conrad's eyes gleamed. "Keep driving." The medic beside him pulled out a small detonator, tossing it to Conrad. Plan B. Moments later, a blinding explosion erupted on the opposite lane, blocking pursuit. The van sped through the smoke, disappearing into Manhattan's maze of streets. By 3:30 a.m., the city was on alert. SWAT units spread across Midtown, helicopters scanning the skyline. Marcus stood in the command center, rain dripping from his coat. Brooks turned to him. "We think he's heading for Park Avenue." Marcus nodded grimly. "The penthouse. He's not running. He's staging his last act." He checked his weapon, eyes hard. "I'm ending this tonight." Outside, the storm roared louder, lightning clawing the horizon. Somewhere high above the city, a fugitive millionaire smiled at the chaos he had unleashed. And as Manhattan held its breath, two men, one fueled by vengeance, one by justice, raced toward the same tower where everything began. The city never truly sleeps, but that night Manhattan was wide awake. Police scanners screamed through the airwaves, every channel echoing the same alert. Escaped inmate, Conrad Vale, male, 36, considered dangerous. Last seen crossing Williamsburg Bridge in a black van. Marcus gripped the steering wheel, his SUV slicing through the rain as sirens howled behind him. The windshield wipers beat like a war drum, and thunder cracked above the skyline. He pressed harder on the gas, eyes locked on the bridge's glistening steel arcs in the distance. "Command, this is Hart," he said through his radio. "I'm approaching from the Brooklyn side. Patch me into Brooks." Static hissed, then Elaine Brooks's voice came through. "Marcus, we've got checkpoints on every bridge and tunnel. NYPD's tracking heat signatures from traffic cams. You're our closest unit." "Then keep everyone else back," he replied. "This ends tonight." As he neared the bridge, Marcus caught a glimpse of the black van weaving through traffic. Its taillights flickered like dying embers. He floored the accelerator. The chase began. Inside the van, Conrad leaned forward, jaw clenched. "They're closing in." His assistant's hands trembled on the wheel. "Sir, there's nowhere to go. Every exit's blocked." Conrad smiled darkly. "Then we make our own exit." He reached under his jacket and pulled out a small metallic device, military grade, compact, deadly. The assistant's voice cracked. "What is that?" "Insurance." Conrad pressed a button. An explosion tore through the rear of the bridge, sending a shockwave through the night. Cars screeched, people screamed, alarms blared. Marcus's SUV swerved violently, barely missing a burning sedan. "Jesus Christ," he shouted, gripping the wheel. "He's detonating his way out." Brooks's voice burst through the radio. "Marcus, fall back. You'll get killed." "Negative," he said, steering into the chaos. "He's heading for Midtown. If he reaches Lily..." Marcus. But he'd already cut the line. The van barreled off the bridge, racing toward the glittering lights of the Upper East Side. Marcus followed, sirens wailing, the tires slicing through puddles. Traffic lights blurred red and green, neon reflecting off rain-soaked streets. Inside the hospital, Lily stirred in her bed as thunder rumbled outside. Dr. Patel, reinstated and alert, adjusted her monitors. "Try to rest," she said softly. "You're safe here." But Lily shook her head, a shiver of dread crawling up her spine. "No," she whispered. "He's coming." Back on the streets, Marcus's SUV screeched around a corner, nearly colliding with a cab. The van was 2 blocks ahead now, weaving toward Park Avenue, the same direction as the hospital. He radioed again. "This is Hart. He's heading north on Lexington toward New York Presbyterian. You need every unit there now." Brooks responded. "We've already dispatched units. SWAT setting up perimeter. Don't do anything reckless." Marcus's grip tightened. "Reckless ended the night he touched my sister." Up ahead, the van clipped a taxi and spun out, crashing into a row of parked cars. Steam and smoke hissed from the engine. Marcus slammed on the brakes, jumped out, gun raised. "Vale, don't move," he shouted. The passenger door opened, and the assistant stumbled out, bloodied and shaking. "He's gone," he gasped. He jumped. Marcus ran to the edge of the street. The storm lashed harder, and through the sheets of rain, he saw Conrad sprinting into a nearby subway entrance. "Command. He's on foot, entering 59th Street Station." Marcus yelled into his radio, charging down the stairs. The platform was nearly empty, the flickering lights painting long, distorted shadows. The sound of rushing trains echoed through the tunnels. Marcus scanned the area, heart pounding. Then he heard it, a faint metallic click behind him. He spun around. Conrad stood at the far end of the platform, soaked, grinning, gun in hand. "Welcome to the end, Marcus," Conrad called. "You can't win against ghosts." Marcus aimed his Glock. "You're not a ghost. You're a coward." The train roared between them, wind blasting through the tunnel, and as the cars blurred past, Marcus took a deep breath, ready to face the man who had turned his family's love into a battlefield. Somewhere above, the city kept shining, unaware that in its underground veins, 2 men were about to decide the price of justice. The train thundered through the tunnel, wind whipping dust and heat between the 2 men. Marcus crouched behind a concrete pillar, Glock aimed steady. Across the tracks, Conrad Vale moved like a phantom, his designer shoes soaked, his once perfect suit shredded at the sleeves. His eyes gleamed with that same manic confidence, the kind of madness that came from believing he was still untouchable. "You think this is justice?" Conrad shouted, his voice echoing down the platform. "You broke into my home, stole my files, and painted me as a monster." Marcus's voice was low, sharp. "You are a monster." Conrad smirked, circling closer. "You talk like some saint, Marcus, but you're no different from me. You like control. You like playing God." "Difference is," Marcus said, stepping from cover, "I protect people. You destroy them." The lights flickered again as another train screamed past, drowning their words in metal thunder. When the noise faded, Conrad raised his gun. "You won't shoot me. You want me to suffer first." Marcus's eyes didn't waver. "I want you to stop breathing." He fired. The bullet grazed Conrad's shoulder, spinning him backward. The millionaire screamed in pain but didn't fall. Instead, he laughed. A wild, broken laugh. "You think this ends with me? There are others, Marcus. Investors, judges, politicians. I bought them all." Marcus advanced, gun trained on him. "Then I'll burn every name, every dollar, every lie you built. But you'll be here to watch it die." Conrad suddenly lunged forward, firing twice. Bullets ricocheted off steel. Marcus ducked behind a pillar, then sprinted to the other side. The chase turned brutal, 2 men dancing through shadows and sparks. Finally, Marcus tackled him near the end of the platform. The guns skidded across the floor, vanishing under the edge of the tracks. They fought hand to hand, fists slamming, echoes bouncing off the tiles. "You ruined my family," Marcus growled. Conrad spat blood. "She ruined herself. She couldn't handle the life I gave her." That broke something inside Marcus. He hit him once, hard, sending Conrad sprawling near the electrified rail. Sirens wailed from above, the distant echo of approaching NYPD units. Marcus could see flashing lights filtering down the stairwell. But Conrad wasn't done. He reached for a jagged metal shard from the wreckage, lunging toward Marcus with feral desperation. Marcus sidestepped, grabbed his wrist and twisted. The shard clattered to the ground. Conrad struggled wildly, but Marcus forced him down, pinning him inches from the deadly rail. Sparks lit the tunnel like lightning. "End it!" Conrad screamed, his face twisted. "You want justice? Do it! Kill me!" Marcus hesitated. The train tracks hummed beneath them. For 1 second, vengeance roared inside his chest like fire, an urge to finish what the law hadn't. Then Lily's voice echoed in his mind. "No more revenge. Only justice." Marcus exhaled, stepped back, and pulled out his badge. "You're done, Conrad. You're going to rot." Conrad lunged again, his last mistake. His foot slipped on the wet concrete and his body pitched forward. Marcus tried to grab him, but it was too late. A burst of blue-white light erupted as Conrad hit the electrified rail. The current tore through him, freezing his scream midair. The lights of the platform flickered, then steadied. Conrad Vale lay motionless, smoke rising from his coat. Marcus stood over him, chest heaving, rain dripping from his hair through a crack in the ceiling. He looked down not at a monster, but at a man who'd destroyed himself. When the officers reached him, Brooks among them, Marcus holstered his gun. "It's over," she said softly. He shook his head. "No, it's finally ended." As they led him out into the cool dawn air, Marcus looked back one last time at the tunnel where power, greed, and love had collided. And above the city, as the first sunrise broke over Manhattan, justice, for the first time, felt real. The morning after the subway showdown, Manhattan felt strangely quiet, as if the city itself was holding its breath. The storm had cleared, leaving the skyline washed clean, sunlight glinting off glass towers. News vans crowded outside the precinct, reporters shouting into cameras, "Conrad Vale confirmed dead after dramatic underground pursuit." Marcus stood on the precinct steps, exhaustion etched into his face. His clothes were torn, his hands scraped raw, but his eyes burned with calm. ADA Elaine Brooks approached, carrying a file and 2 coffees. "You made national news," she said, handing him one. He smirked weakly. "Didn't plan on it." "The commissioner wants to frame this as a joint operation," she said. "You'll get credit, but also scrutiny. Internal affairs will want every detail." Marcus nodded. "They'll get it. I've got nothing to hide." Brooks opened the file. Forensics confirmed the body. No chance of survival. His accounts are frozen. His property seized. Every shell company traced back to his name is now government property. "So it's really over," Marcus said quietly. Brooks hesitated. "Legally? Yes. But justice? Justice doesn't erase scars." He glanced toward the horizon where the city shimmered. "No, it doesn't. But it's a start." Later that day, Marcus drove to the hospital. The corridors seemed warmer now, brighter, as though the building itself could sense the end of a nightmare. Lily was sitting by the window, dressed in a soft blue robe, sunlight spilling across her face. Her belly had grown. The baby was almost due. When she saw him, she smiled, a small, trembling smile that carried everything they'd both endured. "Hey, big brother," she whispered. "You look like you wrestled a hurricane." He laughed softly. "Close enough." She reached for his hand. "Is it true? He's gone?" Marcus nodded. "It's over. The world knows who he really was. His empire's ashes now." Lily looked down, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. "I didn't want this to end in death." He squeezed her hand gently. "You didn't end it, Lil. He did. He had 100 chances to stop, and he never took one." She closed her eyes, whispering, "Then I'll try to forgive him. For me, not for him." Marcus felt a lump rise in his throat. "That's braver than anything I could do." Just then, Dr. Patel entered, smiling warmly. "Good timing, Marcus. We were about to do the final ultrasound." They gathered around the monitor as the rhythmic heartbeat filled the room. Lily's eyes glistened. "That's him," she said softly. "That's my son." Marcus stared at the little flickering shape on the screen. Fragile, alive, a symbol of everything worth fighting for. Dr. Patel smiled. "Healthy heartbeat, strong lungs. He's a survivor, just like his mom." When the doctor left, Lily turned to Marcus. "I want to name him Connor." Marcus frowned. "Connor? For Dad," she said. "Not Conrad. Connor, with an N. For the man who taught us what real strength is." He nodded slowly. "Connor Hart has a good ring to it." They sat together in silence, watching the city skyline beyond the window. Later that night, Marcus stood on the hospital rooftop. The wind was cool, carrying the hum of distant traffic. He pulled out his phone and opened a message from Brooks. "Vale Holdings officially dissolved. Quoted you for tomorrow's press briefing. Justice doesn't erase pain. It prevents the next one." Marcus smiled faintly. He typed back, "Keep it. Let them know this isn't about revenge. It's about rebuilding." He looked down at the street below. Police cars gone, reporters scattered. The chaos had finally quieted. In that moment, for the first time since the night of the attack, he allowed himself to breathe freely. He whispered to the wind, "Rest now, Lil. It's finally safe." But deep inside, he knew something more profound. Safety was fragile, justice temporary, but love, the fierce, unbreakable kind that made him fight, would outlast them all. And as dawn rose again over Manhattan, the city didn't just wake, it healed. 2 weeks passed. The city had moved on, hungry for the next scandal. Conrad Vale's name faded from the headlines, replaced by new faces of greed and downfall. But for Marcus and Lily, life was slowly rediscovering its rhythm. Quiet mornings, real laughter, and the kind of silence that didn't feel dangerous anymore. It was a bright Sunday when Marcus received a letter with no return address. The envelope was heavy, sealed with wax. He frowned, slicing it open with his Mont Blanc pen. Inside was a short note written in elegant script, for Lily and the future she fought for. A friend. Folded within was a property deed, an old colonial-style house in Westchester, fully paid, taxes cleared. Marcus blinked in disbelief. He drove straight to the hospital, finding Lily in the maternity ward garden. She was glowing now, her belly round beneath a loose dress, one hand resting gently over her child. Birds chirped in the trees, and the chaos of New York felt a lifetime away. "You look different," Marcus said, smiling. "I feel different," she replied. "Like I can finally breathe again." He handed her the letter. She unfolded it carefully, reading the words, then looking up in confusion. "Who would give us something like this?" Marcus shook his head. "I don't know, but whoever it is, they knew exactly what you needed." She studied the handwriting. "It's familiar somehow." Dr. Patel appeared then, clipboard in hand. "You two have visitors," she said, smiling. "Well, one, technically." A man stood behind her, dressed in a dark gray suit, mid-50s, with kind eyes and the posture of someone used to boardrooms and briefings. "Mr. Hart?" he asked. "Yes," Marcus replied cautiously. The man extended his hand. "My name's David Rowe. I was a client of Lily's years ago through the Manhattan Hope Foundation. She helped my daughter get out of an abusive marriage. When I saw her story on the news, I knew I couldn't stay silent." Lily's eyes widened. "David? From the Harbor Project?" He nodded. "That's right. I run an investment firm now. Quiet, private. I've spent years helping victims rebuild their lives. You did that for my family, so I decided to return the favor." She covered her mouth, tears brimming. "The house? It was you?" David smiled. "Consider it a start. It's fully in your name, Lily. A safe home for you and your child." Marcus stepped forward. "That's more than generous." David's tone softened. "Generosity isn't kindness, Mr. Hart. It's gratitude. People like Lily remind the rest of us what strength looks like. Don't let her forget it." Before they could thank him further, David turned and left quietly, blending into the hospital's afternoon crowd like a ghost of good fortune. Lily clutched the letter to her chest. "For once, something good found us." Marcus smiled. Maybe the world's finally balancing its scales. Later that evening, they visited the house in Westchester. It was surrounded by maple trees, the porch lined with white rocking chairs, a small swing under a willow in the back. Lily stood on the steps, breathing in the scent of rain and fresh earth. "It feels like home," she whispered. "It is home," Marcus said. She turned to him, eyes shimmering. "I never thought I'd have one again." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "You earned this, Lil. Every scar, every sleepless night, it led here." The sun dipped below the trees, painting gold across the yard. Marcus glanced toward the driveway, where an unmarked black car lingered briefly before driving away. For a moment, he thought he saw a familiar silhouette inside. Perhaps David, perhaps someone else. But he didn't chase it. For once, mystery didn't feel dangerous. It felt like peace. Lily exhaled, smiling softly. "Connor's gonna grow up free." Marcus nodded, his voice quiet. "And so will you." And as the porch light flickered on for the first time, the ghosts of the past finally dimmed, making room for the fragile, beautiful glow of tomorrow. Autumn rolled gently across New York, turning Central Park into a sea of gold and rust. The city had begun to forget Conrad Vale. His empire dismantled, his name fading from the tabloids. For most, the story had ended. But for Marcus and Lily, closure wasn't just an absence of danger. It was the weight of truth that still needed to be spoken. Lily was now 8 months pregnant, glowing yet restless. She spent her mornings reading on the porch of the new Westchester home, sipping decaf coffee and listening to the quiet hum of suburban life. Marcus visited every weekend, fixing things that didn't need fixing, just to stay close. One crisp morning, as Marcus raked leaves, Lily stepped outside holding an envelope. "You got mail," she said, handing it to him. The return address made him freeze. New York District Attorney's Office. He tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper stamped with the DA's seal. Official notification. New evidence in the Vail case unsealed for public record. Attached was a small flash drive. Lily frowned. More evidence? Why now? Marcus plugged the drive into his laptop on the porch table. A video loaded, grainy footage from an interrogation room. It was Conrad, recorded weeks before his escape. His hair was disheveled, his eyes wild. He leaned forward into the camera. "You think I acted alone?" he sneered. "I didn't. Half the city's elite funded me, politicians, bankers, judges, they all have blood on their hands. If I go down, so do they." Then, a knock on the door interrupted the video. Marcus froze. "Stay here," he told Lily, slipping his hand toward his holster. When he opened the door, a familiar voice greeted him. "Relax, Marcus. It's just me." It was Nina Cole, the journalist who had helped expose Conrad's crimes. She looked more confident than ever, a press badge glinting under her coat. "You got the drive, too, didn't you?" Marcus nodded cautiously. "You knew about it?" "Of course. The DA's office released it to select media outlets this morning, but that's not the real story." "What is?" Nina stepped inside, lowering her voice. "Conrad wasn't bluffing. Some of the names he mentioned, they're real. People tied to Vail Holdings have been laundering money through charities and real estate. He was part of something much bigger." Lily's eyes widened. "You mean this isn't over?" Nina nodded grimly. "Not for New York, but for you. It can be, if you want it to. You've both done enough." Marcus exhaled, rubbing his temple. "And what about the city? You're going to publish it." She smiled faintly. "Already in motion. The world needs to see how power hides behind philanthropy." Lily spoke softly. "Then tell them everything. Don't let anyone like him rise again." Nina looked at her, admiration softening her expression. "You have more courage than half the people I've ever interviewed." After she left, Marcus and Lily sat in silence as the late afternoon sun filtered through the trees. The air smelled of cinnamon and rain. "You think she'll survive what comes next?" Lily asked quietly. Marcus stared into the distance. "People like Nina always do. Truth's their weapon." That evening, the story broke across every major network. Conrad Vail's empire linked to political corruption, multiple indictments expected. For once, justice didn't feel personal, it felt larger than them. The city that had nearly devoured them was finally purging itself. Lily turned off the TV and looked at Marcus. "So this is it?" He smiled faintly. "The end of one war and maybe the start of something better." She rested a hand on her belly. "Connor will grow up in a cleaner world than we did." He nodded. "Because you fought for it." As the night deepened, the sound of crickets replaced the noise of the city. Lily leaned her head on her brother's shoulder, and for the first time, their silence was peaceful. Not the kind born from fear, but from freedom. And somewhere in Manhattan, the skyline gleamed under the stars, not as a monument to power, but to the fragile, stubborn persistence of truth. Winter arrived quietly over New York, blanketing the city in pale light. Snowflakes drifted down onto Park Avenue, softening the skyline that had once echoed with chaos. For the first time in what felt like forever, the world around Marcus Hart was still. He stood by the window of Lily's new home in Westchester, watching the snow gather along the fence. Inside, the fireplace crackled, filling the house with warmth and the scent of cedarwood. Christmas lights twinkled faintly, reflecting off the polished floors. It was a house full of life now, one built on survival, not fear. In the living room, Lily sat on the couch, wrapped in a thick blanket, cradling a small newborn in her arms. Connor Hart had arrived 2 weeks early, but strong and perfect. Tiny fists clenched, dark eyes blinking curiously at the world. Marcus smiled, walking over quietly. "You finally let him sleep, huh?" Lily looked up, her face glowing with exhaustion and pride. "Barely," she whispered. "He fights bedtime the same way you fight everything else," he chuckled softly, sitting beside her. "Guess it runs in the family." The baby stirred, a small sound escaping his lips before settling again. Lily traced a gentle hand over his head. Every time I look at him, I think of everything we went through to get here. Every lie, every night I thought I'd never wake up. Marcus nodded, his gaze distant. You did wake up. You rebuilt everything they tried to destroy. For a moment, neither spoke. Outside, the wind carried faint echoes of laughter from a nearby house, neighbors celebrating, living ordinary lives. That simple sound felt miraculous. A soft knock interrupted the quiet. Marcus opened the door to find ADA Elaine Brooks, bundled in a heavy coat, holding a bottle of champagne. "Congratulations," she said warmly. "He's beautiful." Lily smiled. "Come in, Elaine." Brooks sat near the fire, pulling off her gloves. "I won't stay long. I just came to tell you, the case is officially closed. Every name on Val's files has been charged or resigned. The DA's calling it the most significant financial takedown in 20 years. Marcus exhaled slowly. "You did it." Brooks shook her head. "We did it. But more importantly, you both get to move on." Lily looked at her son, whispering, "I already have." Brooks handed Marcus a sealed envelope. "One last thing. The governor signed authorization for the Heart Foundation. It's yours now, funded, permanent, safe homes, legal aid, protection programs, all in Lily's name." Marcus stared at the papers, emotion tightening his throat. "You're serious?" Brooks smiled. "You earned it, every second of it." When she left, the silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of something new. Hope. Lily looked down at the sleeping baby. "The Heart Foundation," she murmured. "Sounds like something Dad would have been proud of." Marcus nodded. "He would have been proud of you." As the firelight flickered across her face, Lily looked up at her brother. "Promise me one thing, Marcus. Promise me you'll let this be the end. No more fighting ghosts." He met her gaze. "I promise." Hours later, the house was dark except for the faint glow of the Christmas tree. Marcus stepped outside onto the porch, snow crunching beneath his boots. He looked up at the sky, clear, endless, peaceful. From his coat pocket, he pulled out a small, worn photo of Lily and their parents, taken years before any of the pain began. He smiled faintly, then tucked it back into his jacket. Inside, Lily sang softly to her son, her voice carrying through the open window. Marcus whispered to the night, "You're safe now, Lil. You both are." The wind carried his words away, scattering them into the snow like blessings. And as dawn broke over the horizon, Manhattan shimmered beneath a new light, not the cold shine of power or revenge, but the quiet brilliance of redemption, family, and peace hard-earned. So, that's how our story ends. You're still here, aren't you? If you've stayed with me all the way to this moment, maybe something inside you felt what Lily and Marcus went through. That quiet pain, that fight to rebuild after everything's been broken. This story isn't just about revenge or justice. It's about healing. About standing back up when the world knocks you down and saying, "I'm still here." As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The obstacle is the way." Every wound can become wisdom if we choose to learn instead of hate. Lily's strength reminds us that forgiveness doesn't mean weakness. It means peace. And Marcus teaches us that real justice isn't about punishment. It's about protection, rebuilding what's been lost, and becoming the kind of person who breaks the cycle. So if something from this story touched you, take a moment. Breathe. Think about what you're fighting for and who you're fighting to become. And hey, if you believe in stories that remind us how powerful healing can be, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Because here, we tell stories that don't just end, they change us.